Good evening and welcome to the series on immigration. This series is sponsored by the American Democracy Project as well as the History Department here at IPFW. We're in Neff Hall this evening and we have the first of 6 presentations on immigration. They're all on Thursday nights, 6:30 in this building for the next 6 weeks. So please make sure you come back for the next one. Next time we are here, we will be talking about the path to citizenship. We'll have representatives from the Department of Homeland Security, as well as an attorney, a couple of other people to talk about the actual process to become a citizen. So if you're interested in the topic, please come back. This evening, though, we're going to be hearing from several people who have immigrated to the United States, and hosting or moderating our event this evening from the Department of History is Dr. Ann Livschiz. Ann?
Thank you, and thank you so much for coming here today. We really appreciate your attendance. I want to just start by saying a special thank you to Jenny Weatherford and Max Montesino for their help in on certain logistic issues involving this panel. We're here today. Part of the motivation for organizing this series of panels is to talk about the issue of immigration in the United States. And one of the interesting things when we think about immigration is sort of the duality in the American approach to the question of immigration. And the big part of the duality really revolves around the concept of American national identity and self-perception. And so on the one hand, we have immigration being inextricably a part of the American national identity, and that has been the case from the very beginning. To a certain extent, we can go back to the 18th century and see that part of the legacy of the patterns of immigration in the 18th century was a society with, up until then, unprecedented diversity, sort of this experiment in diversity. Immigrants form an important part of the fiber that kept this country, the great melting pot, flowing with creative ingenuity. For generations and generations, immigrants laid the framework for this great country with their blood, sweat, and tears. We can look at many of the American accomplishments and see that the immigrants form the backbone for those accomplishments. At the same time, so we have sort of two sides to the immigration debate. On the one hand, we view ourselves, the United States of America, as a nation of immigrants. We talk a lot about the idea of melting pot, the mosaic versus the melting pot, the richness of America because of the diversity of the people who live in it. At the same time, parallel to this pride in the diversity of the United States is a deep fear and suspicion of every new group coming into this country as bringing something potentially dangerous. Dangerous ideas, dangerous traditions, dangerous language, culture, dangerous race and ethnicity, all of which are seen as being so different, so radically different, that they're bound to destroy what it is, what America really is. And you know, this deep-rooted hostility to immigrants is, you know, sometimes more spontaneous than others. Sometimes it is backed by legislation from the government, and sometimes it is not. And there are many arguments and reasons given by people who oppose immigration for why immigration is such a problem. There's a certain amount of religious animosity. There's the fear of economic competition from cheaper immigrant labor. There is a resentment of native-born Americans for the political power of foreigners. And to a certain extent, the future panels that we're going to be doing in subsequent weeks are going to address some of those concerns in a more direct way. But the issue is, what is the nature of American identity? Is it a work in progress, or is it something fixed? Is America enriched through immigration, or is it being altered? Is American identity a static thing, or is it a fluid concept? Is it evolving, or is it fixed? And the big paradox, of course, is that while on the one hand we admire the immigrants of years past, the past immigrants are viewed with respect and gratitude now. Although, of course, as you saw from some of the cartoons that were flashing earlier, certainly historically they were not always viewed as positively as we view them today through the lens of sort of fuzzy historical approach. So the old immigrants are viewed as okay and contributing a great deal to making America great, the great country that it is today. Modern day immigrants, on the other hand, are often viewed much less positively. And it's an interesting phenomenon because if we look at it more empirically, for example, studies show that immigrants from the last couple of decades have assimilated much more rapidly than their counterparts a century ago, even though they were much more distinct than the native population when they were coming in. And of course, the word assimilated is a very loaded concept, and for the purposes of studies like this, assimilated just simply means, are they like the rest of the population or not, with no normative value attached. And so the first step towards our discussion about immigration is going to be to start by realizing that we're not talking about some big impersonal process, but rather we're talking about human beings. And so today we're very lucky to have the voices and faces of immigration coming to share their experiences. And so I have a special interest in the topic of immigration, sort of as in the interest of self-disclosure. I myself was a naturalized citizen. My family came to the United States as having refugee status from the former Soviet Union. And so this issue of immigration and it's something that I feel very strongly about. And so the four people that we have here today with us to share their stories. The one thing that I want to say before I start inviting them up here to finally tell their story is that we want to be clear that the four people that we're very lucky to have who are willing to share their stories do not represent their entire cultures and people. They're here to tell their personal side of the story, and in the hopes that we can see that immigration is not just this economic and social process, but rather it's about people, and it's about people's lives, how people's lives change as a result of them coming to the United States, and perhaps how the United States is changing as a result of these amazing people coming to the United States. And so their stories are unique and special, but of course there are going to be some shared commonalities since they all ended up in the United States and they all ended up in Fort Wayne. And perhaps as you're listening to their stories, it will remind you either of your own personal stories of coming to the United States, or perhaps the stories told to you by your parents or grandparents and their experiences from the previous generations of coming to the United States. And so the first person that I'm going to invite up here to share his story is Jose Luis Rivera, who came to the United States from El Salvador. And I just want to say a few words very quickly about El Salvador, because one of the interesting things that we need to keep in mind when we're thinking about immigration to the United States from El Salvador is the special relationship that the political and economic and social problems of El Salvador have, and how closely related they are to American foreign policy. And perhaps one of the most defining features of contemporary, recent El Salvadoran history is the very long and bloody civil war that ravaged the country and for 12 years and cost about 75,000 lives, finally brought to an end in 1992. And one of the things that contributed to this long and bloody civil war is the very special and strong role that the El Salvadoran military had in domestic politics in El Salvador, in large part supported by the United States because of its fear of communist penetration of Latin America and its support for any institution and organization that promised to keep the communists out. And so, please.
Thank you very much. I feel like in an American Idol here. The judges in front of me.
We're not judging you.
Okay. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm going to keep my time, okay? Let me just first say that I was 11 or 12 years old when the war started in El Salvador. At that time, all I knew about the U.S. was basically what I got from the movies, from TV shows, and my family living here. I had relatives living here already. My uncle, my aunts live here. Then one day in 1987, January 1987, somebody said, they are going to give scholarships to go to a college in the U.S. So I actually went to the American embassy and got the papers from USAID. And I thought, well, what the heck, I'm just going to fill them out. And I filled them out. It took about 7 to 8 months for them to actually respond. And finally they said yes. Out of the 640 applicants, you are one of the 40 that actually qualify for this. But you have to go through a process because the scholarships are only 20. You are one of the finalists, but you have to earn, basically, your place into the scholarship program. That's how I ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I went to the University of New Mexico with no English. All I could say was Big Mac. It helped me out for a while. However, after a few days, I got tired of eating Big Macs. So I went to college. I studied first English as a second language, and then I got a degree in business administration, all paid by the U.S. government. Now, at the time, I didn't know the whole context of my scholarship. Now I understand more about the scholarship. And of course, I was just one single person who was being helped by the Reagan administration, so they could say, we are helping El Salvador. There is no need for communists to come from Nicaragua or Cuba to get El Salvador. That's how I came to the U.S. I remember coming my first impression of the U.S., and please allow me to call it U.S. because for us, America is more than this country. For us, America is the whole continent from Alaska to Chile and Argentina and the south. So my first impression coming to this country was at the LAX, at the airport in LA. And I remember sitting there watching these weird people, a whole bunch of people, different people, nationalities, different languages, from all over the world, basically. And me being an 18-year-old young man, I was watching this with excitement. And I remember thinking, I want to live here, in the U.S. So that's how I came to this country. And it was hard, as any other immigrant, of course, with no language, with a cultural shock almost every day. And then I went back to El Salvador after 5 years. I went back to El Salvador, and I worked there for the government of El Salvador just as the Civil War ended. It ended in January 16, 1992, and I went back December 1991. So just the previous month I gotten there. So I worked there for almost 10 years, and then I came back as a resident in 2001. So 7 years ago, I came back just, I think, a couple of weeks before 9/11, in September 2001. When I came that time, it was a little bit different because, of course, I didn't come with all the help from the U.S. government. So when I came, it was just like any other immigrant. The only difference is that at that time I could say more than Big Mac, so that was helpful. And I also knew the American, way of life. I still struggle with that term, American culture, because I really don't know what exactly American culture is. I'm still trying to find out. Because American culture to me is different living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, than living here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So that's how I came. At that time, I had my family already, my wife and my oldest daughter, Gabriela. And the reason that we came actually was because of the violence in El Salvador after the war. We thought that by ending the war in 1992, everything was going to be fine, but we realized that it wasn't, that the sequels of the war were worse than the war itself. That's how I came the second time, and now I work for the Center for Nonviolence, and I realized, I came from El Salvador just to avoid violence in El Salvador, and here I am working at the Center for Nonviolence in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So that's my story in 5 minutes, I think, that I took.
The next story that we're going to hear is going to be from Khin, who came to the United States from Burma. Just a few brief statements about Burma. Burma was a colony of India. It achieved its independence in 1948. It had a civilian government until 1962, when as a result of a military coup, a military junta took over and continued running Burma up to the present day. Now, of course, it's no longer known as the junta. Since 1989, it is known as the State Law and Order Restoration Council. The policies have not changed dramatically, but the name sounds infinitely more palatable, I guess. When we think about, when we think about Burma, there are a couple of things that need to be briefly mentioned. If we think about the form of government, probably military feudalism is a good way to describe it. Over the years, the government has grown stronger and stronger, while the country seems to be descending into poverty more and more. The government denies the existence of this particular poverty. Economic development is aspired to, but not really achieved, in part as a result of the high-level corruption of the Burmese government. And so we have, when we look at Burma, the history of the Burmese government subjecting its people to epic misrule, where gradually every single institution within the country is destroyed, except of course for the army that is necessary to keep the country going. I'm sure that those of you who have heard about Burma have heard about it in the context of the various repressions carried out by the government against the people who dare to criticize the regime or oppose the regime, and of course most recently the tragic story of the cyclone that hit and devastated the country, and the government's obstinate rejection of various offers of aid from other countries, the need to protect the government's power at the expense of the lives of ordinary people. And so, without further ado.
Hello, my name is Khin, and I'm from Burma, which is also known as Myanmar. I've been living in the U.S. over 4 years. Before I came here, I used to live in South Korea. I finished my high school in Burma, which is in 2002. And then I moved to South Korea with my family because my dad, he was a visiting professor at the Busan University of Foreign Studies. So he wants us to study over there. And then, when we are in Burma, my parents, they research to come to the United States as an immigrant, online. United States, they offer kind of American green card lottery thing. So if you win it, you can come here as an immigrant, you can get the green card right away. So my parents, they want it somehow. And then we moved here. So actually we don't know, and since 1988, Burma it has kind of political things going on. So people from here, they are lots of Burmese refugee. So they came here as refugee. But for us, I don't know about any politic things. So I came here as kind of immigrant. So this is how I came from here. And then I live with my family here, as I said, my dad, I have 2 sisters, and then, before I came here, I know, United States is kind of really dangerous place, so my grandparents, they don't want us to move here, they just want us to stay, South Korea. They say it's kind of safe, and United States, in television, always, shooting, people, carrying gun is kind of legal, so they said don't move. But my dad, he wants us, to speak English and then to study, English-speaking country. So my dad think, oh, no, not like that. If you live in safe place and if you don't do, anything wrong, you're fine. So, but my grandparents, they are really, really worried. So, whatever in here going on, they always call and, hey, are you guys safe? And, are you guys okay? And you're like, yeah, we are fine. Everything's fine. We live all together, So, but in here, so we straight came to Fort Wayne. Actually, we plan to go to Chicago, but my dad friend said he is a Burmese professor at the Northern Illinois University. So when we contact him, he said, no, don't come. You have a big family. over there living expenses, so it's, expensive because you have like 5 people. So you just go straight to Fort Wayne. It is kind of cheaper and it's kind of safer for your daughters. So we just came here. So other than Fort Wayne, we never live in any other place, and this is our first place living in the United States. So my friends, like when they come and like visit here, they are really, really surprised. And in television, United States and here Fort Wayne, United States, totally different. They say, oh, you guys live in that kind of place. No wonder you guys are safe, and So they like sometimes they like make fun of us, and or you guys live in like village or something like that. That's not a village. That's good to study here. It's safe and cheaper. It's really nice staying with the family, and so we explain to them, and so it's kind of fun, and we like it here. So that's pretty much about it. If you guys have any questions, Dr. Melanie.
There will be a chance for questions. There will be a chance for questions.
Okay.
The third speaker that we're very fortunate to have is Jina Mikobi, who comes to us from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Again, just a few brief words about it. This is the region that started off in the 20th century as a Belgian colony. The country gained its independence in 1960, and I'm going to refer to it as the country because the name of what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo has changed many times over the course of the 20th century. Shortly after independence, a military dictatorship was established in the country which was then known as Zaire. The leader of the Colonel Joseph Mugodu was the leader of the military dictatorship, and he spent most of his time putting down rebellions and ruthlessly eliminating all forms of political dissent. And essentially, over the roughly 35 years that he ruled the country, he managed to bring it to economic ruin despite the rich resources that the country possessed. In more recent time, the country experienced ethnic strife and civil war. There conflict with its neighbors, a number of assassinations of political leaders, and it seems to be the transitional government that was set up in 2003 seems to be trying to stabilize the country to the best of its ability. So, Gina.
Every time I speak about this topic, I would be emotional, but I'm going to try. My name is Jina Mikobi. I came from Congo. I was born in Kinshasa. I came here in 2000. I hope you guys have seen Hotel Rwanda. That's basically where I happened in Kinshasa. My mom is Tutsi and my dad is from Congo. And so my family were in great danger. We had no choice but to leave the Congo. My dad was arrested in 1998 due to the fact that he was married to a Rwandese woman, and also some allegation that somebody had wrote a letter that had my dad's signature in it that was talking about the president. Because I had a family member who used to work in the government, so my whole family was basically looked upon during the war in Congo. And so when my dad left, he went to jail. My mom had to leave. She had to go in hiding because she was not safe where she was at. So she went to a neighboring country. It was in Rwanda, like this small country in Rwanda, where a family friend stayed at, where she was staying in the basement for a year. I was separated from my parents for 7 years. I came in America with 3 of my sisters, 3 sisters and 3 brothers. I have 6 sisters and 3 brothers. It's 10 of us. And so all of us couldn't come at the same time because there was so many of us. And so we stayed in Cameroon for a year in a refugee camp. And then in 2000, we came here in the U.S. And we was processing the process so my parents could come in the USA. And my dad was released from jail in I remember the year, probably in 2000 when we came in here. And so we processed everything so they can come here in the U.S. My three sisters who had stayed in the Congo, they were staying with family members. They were also in danger, but we couldn't, like I said, we couldn't come all of us together because there were so many of us, 10 of us, and we just had to just leave them with other family members. And so this thing that I would never forget, like every time I speak about this topic, I always mention this. I remember during the war, one time I was sitting down in a family before my dad had gotten arrested. And so my dad had asked me to go buy bread. It was early in the morning, like 9 o'clock. The war wasn't that bad at that time yet. And so on my way back, I saw a whole bunch of police cars. And I was just praying. I said, God, I hope they're not going to my house. Please don't let them go to my house. And then I saw the car parked in my house. And I had the bread in my hand. So I walked in my neighbor's house. I said, please, can you guys let me stay in your house because I cannot go in the house. I'm scared. I was 10 years old. Remind you, I was only 10. And they told me, no, you guys have started this, you're going to finish it. Basically, people were also against us due to the fact that my mom was Rwandese. And there was a war between the Tutsis and the Hutus. My mom is Tutsi, like I said. And so even our own neighbors, like, they didn't even want to protect us anymore. And so they told me, no, you guys started this, you're going to go back to your house. I was so scared, I told them, you guys can have this bread. And I walked in my house, and they were all sitting in the living room all together. And the police were just standing there, torturing my mom, telling her, where is the money? You guys need to get all the money that you have out. Because my cousin used to come to my house all the time, and people thought we was hiding some kind of money. And which we didn't even hide anything. And so my mom had told him, my mom took out the Bible and she said, this is all we have. We don't have anything. And he took out the back of the gun and hit my mom. And my dad was like, do not touch my wife. They was like, if you say one more thing, we're going to shoot you. And remind you, all of us were sitting in the living room, all the kids, seeing your parents like getting tortured. It was kind of hard feeling. I don't know why I never forget about this because it really did, hurt me. And so let me explain to you how I came to America. I came as a refugee in 2000. I had to get used to American culture. I'm still not used to it, even though I grew up here. I was 11 years old when I came. And I like the life in America, because I'm able to go to school and pursue what I want to do in life. My goal is one day to become an immigrant lawyer because I want to be able to help refugees. The people who helped me, I want to help them back. That's the reason why I'm going to school, to be an immigrant lawyer. And I just appreciate this time that you guys listening to my story, because I used to do a lot in high school, and as you can see, I'm not that nervous. Thank God. I'm not done yet.
The fourth person that we have, that we're very lucky to have today, is Mirnesa Hrustic from Bosnia. And just again, very quickly, a few words, and this is sort of shaping up to be kind of a horror show of all the recent disasters of world history paraded in front of us, which in some ways is an important reminder that certain aspects, the reasons why people come to the United States to the present day continue to be similar to the reasons people came to the United States in the past. Persecution, religious persecution, ethnic persecution, in an effort to make a better life for their families. So Bosnia Herzegovina was part of Yugoslavia. It declared its independence from Yugoslavia in 1992 after a referendum that was boycotted by ethnic Serbs. And this is an important thing that needs to be mentioned when we're talking about the history of the country, is the tremendous ethnic diversity in Bosnia and Herzegovina, something that was that some people viewed as potentially dangerous and in need of eradication. And so what happened shortly after the Declaration of Independence from Yugoslavia is that the ethnic Serbs in Bosnia and Herzegovina embarked on an effort to implement a policy of ethnic cleansing, very much reminiscent of earlier attempts to accomplish such things during World War II. They rounded up Bosnian intellectuals and executed them. They tried very hard to destroy various cultural and religious sites in order to eradicate any trace of Bosnian culture in the region. They targeted civilians and tried to rid the territory of this country of all Bosnians. And one of the really striking things, and it's kind of a powerful reminder of the circular nature of history in the region, is that a lot of the literature collected on the survivors of this ethnic cleansing in the 1990s, some survivors said, we felt like Jews in the Third Reich during this time period. And again, a very powerful reminder of the tragedies that continue to unfold around the world today. The end result was about 200,000 Bosnian Muslims killed in this process of ethnic cleansing before it was finally stopped.
Hi, my name is Mirnesa, and I'm from Bosnia. This is how it started. In April 1992, we heard some rumors in our villages there's going to be a war. So what my dad did, he told me, my mom, my sister, my brother, we should move to a different country. He used to live and work in Slovenia. That's the country next to Bosnia, and he had his own place over there. So what he did, he took us to a bus, and he told us we should go live in his place till it gets better. Like, nothing has started yet, but it was getting to it. So we moved over there, and we were in contact with him for 2 weeks. We used to talk to him and all that. Then it started really bad. We lost contact. We could not get any contact to him. All the phone lines were cut out. No mail, nothing. So it was like time was passing and passing. We never heard anything from him. And then 2 years have passed. We lived there in Slovenia with my mom, the three of us. I have an older sister and a younger brother. So then my mom found out she has some relatives in Germany. Then her sister lived in Germany. She sent us some money to come over to Germany, and then we moved to Germany in 1994. We moved to a city called Kiel. It's right next to Hamburg, and we lived there for 6 years. And since then, we never heard anything about my dad. And then I went to school in Germany, just like my brothers and my sisters. My mom worked. She was a single mom. And then Germany decides they want to send back their immigrants because war has stopped in Bosnia. They gave my mom the choice, since she's a single mom. She could go back to Bosnia, or she could go to Australia, or she could choose to go to the United States. She found out she had a cousin in Chicago, and she got in contact with her. Then they started talking on the phone, and my mom said, should I come to the United States? She said, yeah, I'm going to help you. Me and my family are going to help you, so you should come over here. You should not go back to Bosnia, since you have nothing there anyways. So we came. It took us like a year to go through the process, do the paperwork, and then December 1992, we got a letter saying, you guys passed the process, the paperwork and everything, so you're going to be moving. Like, we had 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks to go to the United States, or you can go back to Bosnia. So my mom decided she's going to come here, and then we came here December 7th, 1992, and we lived in Chicago for a month. My mom could not find a job, and the three of us started school, but it was too expensive for her to live over there with us. Then we found out we had a cousin in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So they told us we should come over here because it's much cheaper, and she's a single mom, so it would be easier for her and everything, and they're going to help us. So we decided after a month that we're going to move to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And we came here in 2000 of January. And I started middle school, Northwood Middle School, went there for 5 months. After that, I went to Southside High School for a year, did my freshman year over there, and then after that, I transferred to Northside High School and graduated in 04, and in 05, I started Ivy Tech, and I've been since 05 in Ivy Tech College, but I took breaks since I had a baby. I got married and everything, and I'm going to be done in January of 2009. Yes, I'm going to be a medical assistant. So that's my story. Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, we have the person, definitely the coolest name imaginable, Patricia Liberto. Coming from Mexico, perhaps the country that needs to have the least amount of introduction for the United States. And the only thing that I will say is that there are a number of concerns facing people in Mexico, in particular, economic and social concerns, low wages, underemployment for a large segment of the population, inequitable income distribution, and an increase in insecurity and crime rate is one of the one of the features of life in Mexico.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share a little bit of my life with you. Something that she was saying about the insecurity, it's about what they call now in Mexico is the express kidnapping. I saw on the TV last week that Mexico is the #1 in the world to have these kind of kidnappings. So it's like we're #1, we're the top, which I am not proud of it because I had suffered that myself. That happening to my family too. I was 12 years old when I came the first time to the United States. When my parents brought me and my family here, and but then my dad said like, well, this is not a country for raised children, so you guys are going back to Mexico. So we all went back to Mexico. I went into high school, then I went to college. I had a degree in business administration, then I decided to get a post-diploma in education for high school and college, so which I was able to achieve it. But insecurity started growing up a lot. And in 1998, 1998, it was the first time in December when some people would follow me to take my car. Actually, I was able to make it home, but as soon as I left my car, they came and took it away. Then again in March 2000, these people were chasing me again, and I left the truck outside of my car, and they came and took it again. So then we started getting these phone calls, making threats like, oh, if you go to the police, we're going to come and get you, you know where you work, what school you go to, and all those things. So then I got tired of this. My parents had been legal residents since 1996 when the Reagan administration gave the amnesty. Then we joined them through I think it's the NACARA, how do you call it? It's reunion, something like to reunite families. That's how we got our legal status too. So for me, it was like a lot of stress being out there and feeling all these things, not even know what to do. So then I decided to move, and I said, you know what? Well, I have a green card, so I'm going back to the U.S. I'm not going to stay in this country anymore. And I was so frustrated because back then I had a good job. I was a high school teacher, and I had jobs that I was able to do outside. I was making good money, so the only reason why I moved here is because I couldn't live down there anymore. So then when I moved to the United States, that's when I first realized about racism. I didn't know about down there in my home country. Down there I knew what about sexism because my father is a very macho guy. Okay, I'm the middle one. I have an old brother and a younger brother, and I was the only sister. So basically, since I'm the woman, well, I was supposed to do all the work for them. Okay, so the house chores and all those things. So I used to live. I have lived in the state of Florida, Georgia, Arkansas, and the state of Washington. So it's a beautiful country. Okay, I like the United States. At least I haven't felt in a while that when I leave my car, I'm not concerned that when I get there, the windows are not going to be broken or somebody hasn't broken and got the stereo. So that's peace of mind that I have for me and my children, that I can leave the doors unlocked. When I get home, everything is going to be there. But somebody had breaking into my car outside the house here in Fort Wayne too also. So I guess that happened. It's like, man, he's chasing me. Yeah, but like I said, despite everything, I have such a great experience. The reason why we moved to Fort Wayne is because I was living in the state of Arkansas, Little Rock, which is a beautiful state, but it's very humid, and I don't like it. So then with my husband, we decided, well, where are we going to move? And I said, well, I have family in North Carolina, Richmond, and he said, well, I have family in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So for Christmas, we decided to go and visit my relatives in North Carolina and then come to Fort Wayne. So we went out there. There's a lot of beautiful mountains and trees and everything. I said, well, that's cool. And I came to Fort Wayne, and the first thing that I see is a whole bunch of snow. It was like probably 2 or 3 feet of snow, and I said, man, we're coming here. So 2 weeks after, we moved to Fort Wayne because I love the snow. Okay, a lot of people say like, how come you like the cold weather? You're supposed to be loving the heat. I don't like the heat. Okay, if I don't have the AC on in my house, I'm like, how do you call mean? I mean, I get grouchy. It's like, heck no. I like the cold thing. I don't like the hot. I had enough. Okay, so I believe Fort Wayne is a good place to raise children because I have 2 little ones. That's one thing that I like about it. Okay, and it's a good place to find a job. If you are truly looking for a job, you're going to find one. Okay, I had experienced some racism in here when I was working. When I be working, right now I'm working at the YWCA, which is a great experience. But before that, it's not been so pleasant. But it's like I want to help out. I found a job that I can help victims of domestic violence and help to eliminate racism, which I don't know if it's going to happen. Okay, but I'm doing the best that I can in order to make it happen. And I would like to break the cycle of violence, and especially because that was something that I lived when I was younger too. So for me, like I said, being an immigrant in this country, it's a good thing. And like I have to tell my parents, and they said, when are you coming back to Mexico? Because since I moved, I have never been back there. That's going to be 8 years. Okay, and I said, well, you know what? You guys can come over here. I have no interest whatsoever to go back to Mexico. Things are getting even worse. I mean, the economy is getting better, okay? But the kidnapping express thing is like not such a great thing. So I'm not a fan of that. So the only way I'm going down there is unless the gringos kick me out, because if not, I'm not going. I'm staying here. And I have learned to know more about your culture, okay? Because there's a lot of mixed cultures. There's a lot of them. I mean, it's not just one. But I found out that hamburgers are not original from the United States, okay? The only thing that you guys have is like hot dogs, but I like them, okay? But I've been putting some hot stuff on it, and then I make it kind of Mexican so it tastes good. So it's there's a good things that we all can learn from each other. And like today, I mean, knowing people from Salvador, from Burma, from Congo, from Bosnia, this is the beauty of this country. Okay, that's the beauty. The differences. I believe that the beauty lies in the differences, and that's one thing that I've been able to see. I enjoy talking to other people from other countries, from other languages, from other cultures, because there's always something good for me to learn from them, because I don't know what's behind them. And even if, like you said, well, I'm an American, which I share the same feeling with Luis, because Luis is like, America is a whole continent. It's not just the United States. But now I can hear my little kids and they say, oh, I'm an American. And then I say, where did that came from? I've been spending all this time trying to teach other people, to educate other people, and my kids are doing it. They don't feel they're Mexicans, okay? I don't know when that happened. But I said, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about that now. So, I don't know what else to tell you, but it's, like I said, I mean, I guess it's a great thing being an immigrant, but there's a lot of stuff that we struggle for being immigrants, especially when you are from Mexico, because now we are in the media. When you talk about immigrants, the first thing that comes to your mind is a Hispanic. Okay, bless you. And that's not the only thing. And if you ever get the chance to come to Mexico, like I'm from Jalisco, that's where the mariachi is from. That's where the tequila is from. So you see, there's great things to give to the world. Okay.
Tequila and mariachi.
Tequila and mariachi. Okay. But if you go down there, if you get the opportunity to go to Puerto Vallarta, you've probably heard about this one, right? There's communities of white people, American people living down there. So if you go into the residence, it looks like if you were in the United States. Okay, you go to places to buy anything, just little stores, not such a big supermarket. The clerks, they speak English and they speak Spanish. So it's like when I hear people saying who are racist, it's like, oh, you guys don't speak English and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we do. And even if we're in our home country, we speak the language. Because when you are in elementary school, they teach you English. When you go to middle school, they teach you English. High school, college. For my college, I cannot graduate from my college if I did not pass the technical English test. Okay, I can have all the credits, I can have everything, my thesis and everything, but if I don't pass the English test, I can graduate. Plain and simple. So it's like, if you get the chance to learn another language, because that is very important, that opens your mind and your opportunities of work. For me, thank God I know 2 languages. I'm working on a 3rd one, but I wish I can learn more languages. So, thank you very much.
We have a little bit of time for questions, and I have a chance to show my anti-immigration. I have another chance to show anti-immigration cartoon. So, Mr. Downs is going to walk around and see if there are any questions while I ply you with anti-immigration propaganda that's from a long time ago, and of course no longer applies today. And one of the interesting things, again, that goes back to this issue of duality, that today we idealize the immigrants of previous generations, and it's hard to imagine that these exalted figures that we see as heroes from the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s were viewed with a fair amount of suspicion at the time. And again, the big overriding issue being that they're so different that they will never be able to become American, and they will ruin everything that America stands for. And again, it's hard to imagine that this is the case. But somehow, the Irish for example, managed to become okay. The Italians managed to become okay. Germans, and other groups as well.
Well, if there are no questions, I want to thank you all for coming.
Question, sure. Each of the panelists. I have my own personal reason for asking this because it affects me too, strangely enough. But something that may be instructive for anybody who watches this afterwards. But I would ask each of the panelists, what was the dumbest question a Native American ever asked you? And then maybe anybody who watches this will not ask that question.
When I came the first time, they were doing a welcoming party, I think, at the university. And there was an old lady, and she asked me, do you have TVs in El Salvador? I thought that was the dumbest question I could ever get, because all the TV shows were from the U.S.
The dumbest question that people ask me is when people ask me where you're from, I'm always Burma, and that's it's also known as Myanmar. They said, where is that at? And then I said, it is in Southeast Asia, it's nearby Thailand. So is that Thai, it's from Thai? I'm like, no, it's nearby Thailand, it's Burma. Oh, really? I never heard that. I'm like, it makes me depressed and, mad sometimes.
So many people had asked me so many dumb questions in high school. It's really ridiculous. Do you guys wear clothes in Africa? Yes, we do. Of course, the clothes are the same like American clothes. But we have a culture, outfits. We do have clothes in Africa. And we do have toilets. That's what they keep asking me also. Yeah, one of the, and like you said, there's a lot of it, but one of it is they asked me once, do you guys eat meat? It's well, I'm not a vegetarian, and I love meat, but people for some reason believe that do you guys, the only thing that you eat is beans and tortillas, and then I said, no, you forgot the pepper, because if you ever come to my house, you're gonna find fresh salsas, and they're hot, because I need to put habaneros to make it real hot. And the other one that I have heard is do you speak Spanish? and that's funny. And I said, well, yes, I'm from Mexico, and probably because I kept my maiden name, and it's Liberto. But that is actually it's an Italian last name. My great-grandparents were Italians, and they moved from Italy to Mexico. And so that's probably why people are wondering
because they asked me, is Liberto your middle name or is it your first name? And I said, no, it's my last name. But people also ask me a lot of times, and here it's like, how do you say your last name? It's like a lot of things, but it's rarely when somebody can say Liberto.
The dumbest questions I got in high school, they would like ask, do you guys have houses? Where is Bosnia? Like, some people, or like most teenagers are not here educated about geography. Like, we, like us immigrants, we know lots about geography, even though we didn't live in all those countries, but we still get all the information. We still watch TV and the news. But like most teenage Americans, they don't watch news. They're like, why don't we watch news? It's for old people. And the dumbest comments I get is, well, your English is so bad. Well, at least I speak my language, Bosnian, and I learned Slovenian, German, and English. I mean, I speak 4 languages, and then some people, they come to me and say that, like, they use the slang English. They don't even speak their own language right. So I think it's stupid when some people say something about our languages.
Can I add one too? As I don't know if this is the dumbest, but it's definitely the funniest question that anybody ever asked me. Somebody asked me once, because I still lived in the Soviet Union when the Challenger exploded, and somebody asked me if we laughed when the Challenger exploded, which I found sort of slightly humorous, but also really profoundly disturbing. Because we didn't laugh when the Challenger exploded. But,
well, let's give everyone a round of applause for coming this evening to help us out.